Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to the second installment of questions and answers. If you do have any questions, please call in on 01274 214 299. That's 01274 214 299. Yet to take a call for the question. Getting a loud buzzing sound in my ear. Not sure what that is. So I'm best to take it out. Couldn't hear a single thing there. It's like a bee was inside my ear. So we're still waiting on a call to come through. So the number to ring is 01274 214 299 so that we can answer your questions. I hope I'll be able to hear you on the speakers in the studio because my earpiece is continuously buzzing and it's difficult to concentrate. In the meantime, I had one other question to deal with. So let me take that one other question. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In Salah, the Imam was supposed to have read, La yajzi Allahu sadiqina bisidkihim wa yu'adhib al-munafiqina in sha'a aw yatubu alayhim inna Allaha kana ghafura rahima. But instead he read, La yajzi Allahu as-sadiqina wal mu'adhibina in sha'a aw yatubu alayhim inna Allaha kana ghafura rahima. Did this error break the Salah or is it still intact? If the person makes salah breaking mistake in Isha and finds out the next day, do they have to repeat the witr? So let's get to this. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. From the verse that you've quoted and the verse which you have used that he should have recited and what he actually recited, there is no significant change in the meaning because liyajziya, it can be meant for both reward and punishment, so that would fit. So therefore the salah is still valid. The second part of your question was that if a person makes a salah breaking mistake in Isha and finds out the next day, do they have to repeat witr? No, they don't need to repeat witr. That is only if a person purposefully prays witr before Isha. If obviously due to error, like in this case, then there would be no need to repeat Isha. So that deals with all the questions that I can see from our forum. Alhamdulillah, that's all done. We now ask if you have any queries yourself to now call in. And in the meantime, I will take up some matters that I have been discussing with you now for quite some time, which is sharing with you some hadith on seeking knowledge. So I think we'd got to this hadith. So let me share this hadith with you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah reports, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Khayrukum Islaman, ahasinukum akhlaqan, idha faquhu." That the best of you in terms of Islam is ahasinukum akhlaqa, is the best of you in terms of your character. Idha faquhu, when you seek an understanding of knowledge. Very interesting this, okay? And that is that when a person's akhlaq, so how you are in nature, what your natural characteristic is, what your natural behavior is, how you are as a person, how you deal with people. Are you a friendly person? Are you an obnoxious person? Are you a kind person? Are you an arrogant person? Are you a person who puts others down? Are you a person who puts others up? You know, what type of a person are you? Forget about your Islam now. We're not talking about your Islam in terms of how many salahs do you pray, how many fasts do you keep. Let's put that to one side. How are you as a person? Okay, how are you as a person? This is what the narration mentions. It mentions how he is as a person. The hadith says clearly, where's it gone? Khayrukum Islaman ahasinukum akhlaqum. Okay? So if you got good qualities, good traits, then you learn about deen. Then you learn about deen and you start to understand the deen and you start practicing it. That person's Islam is better. Allow me to explain. Okay, so if we have a glass, right, which is currently full, I'm sure you can see, there you go. So if we have a glass which is currently full, and this glass, let's pretend, was empty, and I had, say, two glasses, one glass which was empty, two glasses, both empty. One had, it was dirty, the glass was dirty. It hadn't been cleaned. There was like, goodness me, there's a wasp in the studio. I thought wasps had died by now. It's nearly the middle of winter. Must be all this climate change that we're talking about. Let's hope it doesn't see me and want to take a bite. So maybe that was the buzzing sound that was coming from my ear. Maybe there was an actual wasp in my ear and I didn't realize it, and it's just flown out now. Khair, anyway, it was something. Something was making a buzzing sound. So imagine I've got two glasses, okay? And one is dirty and one is clean. Now imagine Islam is like clean water. So if one glass is dirty and you pour clean water into it, then that water will eventually become dirty. Okay? The water won't be sufficient to clean the glass. Meaning, in other words, that the water, because of the quantity of the water, won't clean the glass. Instead, the glass will pollute the water. Okay? The glass will pollute the water. So, when we have a person who has bad characteristics, bad habits, bad traits, and he learns Islam, unfortunately, what tends to happen is he perverts Islam. Because of his filth, his character, he perverts Islam to his own benefit. So it's not that Islam has made him better. Unfortunately, he has perverted Islam for his own benefit. And we've seen that so many times across the world where people in positions of power, you know, senior so-called scholars, that have abused their position of power against their students, you know. And I mean abuse with a capital A. I don't mean abuse in the kind of English loose term. I mean the physical act of abuse, whether physical, mental, spiritual, abuses people and takes advantage to benefit himself rather than benefit the work. So people say, oh, you know, you can't trust scholars. You know, you hear that. Well, I don't hear it, but people tell me that. Some people say that. You can't trust scholars, you know, they do this, they do that, they do this, they do that. And unfortunately what they do is the bad experience that they've had with some scholars, they label the whole religion based on that. And they say all scholars are like that. We have a habit, don't we? You know, when we don't mix with a certain group of people. So if, say, for example, we're a white community and we don't mix with, say, the Asian community, and we only come across Asians every now and then in passing, so we then use that little understanding we have of Asians and extrapolate it to every single Asian, because we have a very small group pool of experience. If we experience lots of Asians, then we won't have that. That's why, you know, when say it was a white community, they don't change towards a white community because they deal with the white community. And because they deal with the white community, then what they find is that there's good people and bad people in the white community. But because they're only dealing with a very small group from the Asian community, so they don't experience enough good for them to compensate. And also it's easy to see the negatives in the other and see only the positives in yourself. You know, when you look at yourself and you look at your own family, you know, all you see is positives, don't you? You rarely can pick a fault out of your wife, husband, rarely pick a fault out of your parents, rarely pick a fault out of your siblings, your children. You know, there will be, but you see good mainly. And then when you look at other families, all you can see is bad. You know, you can't see any of their good. You know, it's natural, this is human nature. It's the ego, okay? The ego is a huge thing. And once you have a big ego, it's hard to accept kind of defeat or hard to accept your position, how you are and how you move forward. So that glass, unfortunately, becomes a means to pervert. But if you have a person who's a good person, of good character, okay, who does a you know, generally a kind person, a decent person, okay, who's always helping and caring and all the rest of it, They now learn deen. Now they are like a clean glass that you've now poured water in. Now when you've got a clean glass with clean water, the water is pure now. The water is not going to be perverted. So now people can drink from that glass and feel good about it, not drink from that other glass and end up getting illness. Because when you drink from a glass with dirty water in it, you're going to fall ill. But when you drink from a glass which has got clean water in it, you're going to feel much better. And that is the scholar or the learned person that has come with a good character. You know, he's not a liar. He's not deceitful. He doesn't have a huge ego. Okay, he's always tries to help people. Puts himself last and always tries to put others first. Being kind, happy. Now when he, which is a clean glass, has the deen in him, the water in him, then what happens is when people drink from there, then obviously they benefit from it. They benefit from it. And that's what the hadith is referring to. Let's go on to the next hadith. This is a hadith that is narrated by Malik ibn Anas radiyallahu anhu, in which the hadith says, Inna haqqan ala man talab al-ilm ay yakuna lahu waqarun wa sakinatun wa khashyatun wa ay yakuna muttabi'an la atharim man madha qablahu. That it is a duty and a responsibility upon the student of knowledge that he behaves with dignity, tranquility, and some level of reverence in order that he follows the way of those who came before him. Because a person who is seeking knowledge, okay, a person who is seeking knowledge is seeking something which is very valuable and it's sacred. It's pure, like the pure water. So when somebody is seeking that the vessel that water is going to go in has to emulate and show that it is worthy of retaining this ilm. Hence he must behave, as it mentioned there, with humility, with tranquility, with reverence, with an attitude of humbleness, with an attitude of that I carry something of weight. You know, like when we don't see it much nowadays, unfortunately, but back in the day when you used to pick a mushaf up, yani a copy of the Quran, you would see with which reverence and respect people would pick it up. You know, nowadays it doesn't matter, but you know, I'm of that generation that when you used to be walking along, okay, when you used to be walking along and you found some chapati on the floor, what used to happen is that person would pick the chapati up or the food up and put it on a higher place. Okay, this wasp is flying around quite close to me now. And they're always saying it, that don't move. When anything, a wasp or a bee or a dog or any kind of creature that looks a little bit frightening, that could do some damage to you, when it comes towards you, don't panic, just sit still. Okay, it's easy saying that, isn't it? Okay, it is flying right next to me. It's easy saying that, but when it actually is flying towards your face, how are you going to stand still, you know? You've got to try to duck out of the way, and then, you know, maybe that gives it a sign that I'm going to sort of sting you. So when, you know, you used to pick it up and, you know, and used to put it on a high place, and so that, you know, nobody would tread on it. Now, unfortunately, you know, when I go for my evening walk, and I see people literally, you know, sat in cars outside takeaways, and they're just throwing food out the window. You know, when they finish, they just chuck it out the window. They don't even make it up to go to a bin to dispose of it. And you know, there would never be food that would be disposed. They would make sure that that food got eaten. You know, so unfortunately, we're losing all those etiquettes, all those manners, all those virtues that we used to have, and it's going away from us. So it's, you know, it's difficult. Unfortunately, it's difficult. So, you know, let's hope that we can, you know, and this comes because of this generational change that we get. You know, we can keep blaming the youngsters, but it's the adults who educate the youngsters. And if the adults, the parents, the elders don't educate the youngsters, then unfortunately, that's not going to happen. You know, unfortunately, what's going to happen is that they're going to be left on their own. And nowadays, people don't really think for themselves. And when they don't think for themselves, you know, they then get impacted by that. And when they get impacted by that, then it obviously affects them. So, you know, we've got to kind of try to get reinvent that, reinvigorate that, start to go back to our values, and you know we'll hopefully see a better world, a better place. Okay, I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to share another hadith with you before we disappear. If you haven't called, you've got probably a couple of minutes now to make your call, just to squeeze it in. If not, unfortunately, we're going to have to meet tomorrow. So let me start. It's quite a long hadith, so I don't know if I should share it with you because we'll probably leave it halfway. So what I'll do is, in fact, I will leave it there. Okay, I will leave it there, and we'll pick up from this hadith when we meet again tomorrow, if we find that there's some Q&A that we have to adopt and deal with. So, ilm, looking at our future generation, trying to inspire them to become better, trying to get them to understand life better, trying to get them to, you know, look at what's around them, see what's around them, and try to motivate themselves and try to get around themselves and move forward. You know, this is a key way for them to address these issues, you know, through the guidance of their parents. But first, if we're not guiding, then the problem that we have is that we first need to educate ourselves so that we're in a strong position to be able to guide others. You know, we were a community that should be upstanding and a community that should be looked up at. I'm surprised that this wasp is flying into hot lights and not getting hurt. So it's quite a tough one. You know, I've got one eye on it as it's roaming around, so it doesn't sneak up on me. So it's a case of, you know, educating, and we need to kind of go back to that. You know, our establishments, our structures, our religious structures, they've been undermined. They've not been effectively funded. We have poor training in these Islamic establishments, and as a result, because of that, it's not producing the quality that we need to produce. It's not changing behavior as we wish to. It's not, you know, people are coming with completely different understanding of the world, whereas there was some basic understanding, some basic etiquettes that were taught when children were young. But when children are young, obviously this requires a lot of energy and time, and people don't necessarily want to give any time or any energy towards it, because now, unfortunately, people just want to relax. They don't want the headache. You know, nobody wants headache. Many people want to become rich. I was just talking about this to my son earlier. Many people want to become rich, but they don't want to put the energy or the effort in. You know, so someone studies for 6-7 years and does a degree, and then, you know, gets a job at, you know, working from their way up from the bottom up to the top, and then when they get to their, you know, early 30s and they're earning a reasonable wage, then people say, oh, you're lucky. Oh, it's got to do with that. This poor guy has sacrificed nearly 10 years of his life, 12 years of his life of working hard. There was no luck in there whatsoever. He's worked hard to achieve that. And then you get this other bloke who's done nothing, and he's now also in his 30s, but he wants to live like this bloke wants to live. But he wants it quick now because he doesn't want to work for it. So then, unfortunately, we start to get involved in silly things, you know, whether it's fraudulent behavior, illegal behavior, and because we want and we're looking at get rich quick schemes in order to make that money. But, you know, we're losing our way, and we're losing principles which were key for our community. And we need to go back to those basics. We need to, you know, bring that understanding about. So at least what we can do is our future generations can have that understanding. Otherwise, you know, what will they pass on to their children, the generation after? Anyway, I will now take my leave. Jazakumullah khair for viewing. Please do have your questions ready for tomorrow so that I may be able to address them. Otherwise, we will continue with the ahadith on ilm, on knowledge, and I will continue to share them with you. Hopefully the wasp will be gone by tomorrow. If not, I'll be keeping my eye on him. But anyway, inshallah, all the best, and I pray a good evening for you and a good evening for myself, and I will see you tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.